Hi everyone, this is Miss Mangum or Mrs. Wilson, whatever. Today I'm going to read to you Chapter 7 of The Outsiders, so please follow along. So Chapter 7. Now there were three of us sitting in the waiting room waiting to hear how Dally and Johnny were. Then the reporters and the police came. They asked too many questions too fast and got me mixed up. If you want to know the truth, I wasn't feeling real good in the first place. Kind of sick, really. And I'm scared of policemen anyway. The reporters fired one question right after another and got me so confused I didn't know what was coming off. Derry finally told them I wasn't in any shape to be yelled at so much, and they slowed down a little. Derry's kind of big. Soda Pop kept them in stitches. He'd grab one guy's press hat and another camera and walk around interviewing the nurses and mimicking TV reporters. He tried to lift a policeman's gun and grinned so crazily when he was caught that the policeman had to grin too. Soda can make anyone grin. I managed to get hold of some hair grease and comb back my hair so that it looked a little better before they got any pictures. I'd die if I got my picture in the paper with my hair looking so lousy. Derry and Soda Pop were in the pictures too. Jerry Wood told me that if Soda and Derry hadn't been so good looking, they wouldn't have taken so many. That's the public appeal, he said. Soda was really getting a kick out of all this. I guess he would have enjoyed it more if it hadn't been so serious. But he couldn't resist anything that caused too much excitement. I swear, sometimes he reminds me of a colt. A long-legged Palomino colt that has got his nose into everything. The reporter stared at him admiringly. I told you he looks like a movie star. He kind of radiates. Finally, even Soda Pop got tired of the reporters. He gets bored with the same old thing after a time, and stretching out on a long bench, he put his head in Derry's lap and went to sleep. I guess both of them were tired. It was late at night, and I knew they hadn't slept much during the week. Even while I was answering questions, I remembered that I had been only a few hours since I was sleeping off a smoke in the corner of the church. Already it was an unreal dream, and yet, at the time, I couldn't have imagined any other world. Finally, the reporters started to leave, along with the police. One of them turned and asked, "What would you do right now if you could do anything you wanted?" I looked at him tiredly. "Take a bath." They thought that was pretty funny, but I meant it. I felt lousy. The hospital got real quiet after they left. The only noise was the nurse's soft footsteps and Soda's light breathing. Derry looked down at him and grinned half-heartedly. "He didn't get much sleep this week," he said softly. "He hardly slept at all." "Hmm," Soda said drowsily. "You didn't either." The nurses wouldn't tell us anything about Johnny and Dally, so Derry got a hold of the doctor. The doctor told us that he would talk only to family, but Derry finally got through the guy's head that we were about as much family as Dally and Johnny had. Dally would be okay after 2 or 3 days in the hospital, he said. One arm was badly burned, and he would be scarred for the rest of his life, but he had full use of it in a couple of weeks. Dally'd be okay, I thought. Dallas is always okay. He could take anything. It was Johnny I was worried about. He was in critical condition. His back had been broken when the piece of timber fell on him. He was in severe shock and suffering from third-degree burns. They were doing everything they could to ease the pain, although, since his back was broke, he couldn't even feel the burns below his waist. He kept calling for Dallas and Ponyboy. If he lived. If. Please no, I thought. Please not if. The blood was draining from my face, and Derry put an arm across my shoulder and squeezed hard. Even if he lived, he'd be crippled for the rest of his life. "You want it straight? You got it straight," the doctor said. "Now go home and get some rest." I was trembling. A pain was growing in my throat and I wanted to cry, but greasers don't cry in front of strangers. Some of us never cry at all, like Dally and Two-Bit and Tim Shepard. They forgot how to at an early age. Johnny? Crippled for life? I'm dreaming, I thought in a panic. I'm dreaming. I'll wake up at home or in the church and everything will be like it used to be. But I didn't believe myself. Even if Johnny did live, he'd be crippled and never play football or help us out in Rumble again. He'd have to stay in that house he hated, where he wasn't wanted, and things could never be like they used to be. I didn't trust myself to speak. If I said one word, the hard knot in my throat would swell and I'd be crying in spite of myself. I took a deep breath and kept my mouth shut. Soda was awake by then, and although he looked stony-faced, as if he hadn't heard a word the doctor said, his eyes were bleak and stunned. Serious reality has a hard time coming through to Soda, but when it does, it hits him hard. He looked like I felt when I had seen the black-haired Soch lying down, doubled up, and still in the moonlight. Derry was rubbing the back of his head softly. "We better go home. We can't do anything here." In our fort I was suddenly overcome by sleepiness. I leaned back and closed my eyes, and we were home before I knew it. Soda was shaking me gently. "Hey, Ponyboy, wake up. You still gotta get to the house." I said sleepily, and lay down in the seat. I couldn't have gotten up to save my life. I could hear Soda and Derry, but as if from a great distance. "Oh, come on, Ponyboy," Soda pleaded, shaking me a little harder. "We're sleepy too." I guess Derry was tired of fooling around because he picked me up and carried me in. "He's getting mighty big to be carried," Soda said. I wanted to tell him to shut up and let me sleep, but I only yawned. "You sure lost a lot of weight," Derry said. I thought sleepily that I should at least pull off my shoes, but I didn't. I went to sleep the minute Derry tossed me on the bed, forgotten how soft a bed really was. I was the first one up the next morning. Soda must have pulled my shoes and shirt off for me. I was still wearing my jeans. He must have been too sleepy to undress himself, though. He lay stretched out beside me, fully clothed. I wiggled out from under his arm and pulled the blanket up over him, then went to take a shower. Asleep, he looked a lot younger than going on 17. But I had noticed that Johnny looked younger when he was asleep, too, so I figured everyone did. Maybe people are younger when they're asleep. After my shower, I put on some clean clothes and spent 5 minutes or so hunting for a hint of beard on my face and mourning over my hair. That bum haircut made my ears stick out. Derry was still asleep when I went to the kitchen to fix breakfast. The first one up has to fix breakfast, and the other two do the dishes. That's the rule around the house. And usually it's Derry who fixes breakfast, and me and Soda who are left with the dishes. I hunted through the icebox and found some eggs. We all like our eggs done differently. I like them hard, Derry likes them in a bacon and tomato sandwich, and Soda Pop eats his with grape jelly. All three of us like chocolate cake for breakfast. Mom had never allowed it with ham and eggs, but Derry let Soda and he talked him into it. We really didn't have to twist his arm. Derry loves chocolate cake as much as we do. Soda Pop always makes sure there's some in the icebox every night, and if there isn't, he cooks one up real quick. I like Derry's cakes better. Soda Pop always puts too much sugar in the icing. I don't see how he stands jelly and eggs and chocolate cake all at once, but he seems to like it. Derry drinks black coffee, and Soda Pop and I drink chocolate milk. We would have coffee if we wanted, but we like chocolate milk. All three of us are crazy about chocolate stuff. Soda says if they ever made a chocolate cigarette, I'll have made it. "Anybody home?" a familiar voice called through the front screen, and Two-Bit and Steve came in. We always just stick our heads into each other's houses and holler, "Hey," and walk in. Our front door is always unlocked in case one of the boys has hacked off to his parents and needs a place to lay over and cool off. We never could tell who we'd find stretched out on the sofa in the morning. It was usually Steve, whose father told him about once a week to get out and never come back. Kind of bugs Steve, even if his old man does give him $5 or $6 the next day to make up for it. Or it might be Dally, who lived anywhere he could. Once he found Tim Shepard, leader of the Shepherd gang and far from his own turf, reading the morning paper in the armchair. He merely looked up and said, "Hi," and strolled out without staying for breakfast. Two-Bit's mother warned us about burglars, but Derry flexes his muscles so that they bulged like oversized baseballs, drawled that he wasn't afraid of any burglars, and that we didn't really have anything worth taking. He'd risk a robbery, he said, if it meant keeping one of the boys from blowing up and robbing a gas station or something. So the door was never locked. "In here," I yelled, forgetting that Derry and Soda Pop were still asleep. "Don't slam the door." They slammed the door, of course, and Two-Bit came running into the kitchen. He caught me by my upper arms and swung me around, ignoring the fact that I had 2 uncooked eggs in my hands. "Hey, Pony Boy," he cried gleefully. "Long time no see." You'd have thought it had been 5 years instead of 5 days since I'd seen him last, but I didn't mind. I liked Two-Bit. He's a good buddy to have. He spun me into Steve, who gave me a playful slap on my bruised back and shoved me across the room. One of the eggs went flying. It landed on the clock, and I tightened my grip on the other one so that it crushed and ran all over my hand. "Now look what you did," I griped. "They ruined our breakfast. Can't you two wait till I set the eggs down before you go shoving me all over the country?" I really was a little mad, because I just realized how long it had been since I'd eaten anything. The last thing I'd eaten was a hot fudge sundae at the Dairy Queen in Windrixville, and I was hungry. Two-Bit was walking in slow circles around me and sighed because I knew what was coming. "Man, dig Baldy here." He was staring at my head and circled me. "I wouldn't have believed it. I thought all the wild Indians of Oklahoma had been tamed. What little squaw got that tough-looking mup of yours, Pony Boy?" "Aw, lay off," I said. I wasn't feeling too good in the first place. Kind of like I was coming down with something. Two-Bit winked at Steve, and Steve said, "Why," he said, "to get a haircut, to get a picture in a paper. They'd never believe a greasy-looking mug could be a hero. How do you like being a hero, Big Shot?" "How do I like what?" "Being a hero. You know." He shoved the morning paper at me impatiently. "Like a big shot, even." I stared at the newspaper. On the front page of the second section was the headline, "Juvenile Delinquents Turn Heroes." "What I like is the turn bit," Two-Bit said, cleaning up the egg off the floor. "Y'all were heroes from the beginning. You just didn't turn all of a sudden." I hardly heard him. I was reading the paper. The whole page was covered with stories about us. The fight, the murder, the church burning, the socials being drunk, everything. My picture was there, with Derry and Soda Pop, the article about how Johnny and I had risked our lives saving those little kids, and there was a comment from one of the parents who said that they would have burned to death if it hadn't been for us. It told the whole story of our fight with the Socs, only they didn't say Soc, because most grown-ups don't know about the battles that go on between us. They had interviewed Cherry Valance, and she said Bob had been drunk and that the boys had been looking for a fight when they took her home. Bob had told her he'd fix us for picking up his girl. His buddy Randy Anderson, who had helped lump us, also said it was their fault, and that we'd only fought back in self-defense, but they were charging Johnny with manslaughter. Then I discovered that I was supposed to appear in juvenile court for running away, and Johnny was too, if he recovered. Not if, I thought again. Why do I keep saying if? For once there wasn't any charges against Dally, and I knew he'd be mad because the paper made him out a hero for saving Johnny, and didn't say much about his police record, which he was kind of proud of. He'd kill those reporters if he got a hold of them. There's another column about just Derry and Soda and me, how Derry worked on 2 jobs at once and made good at both of them, and about his outstanding record at school. He mentioned Soda Pop dropping out of school so we could stay together, and that I made the honor roll at school all the time and might be a future track star. Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm on the A squad track team, the youngest one. I'm a good runner. Then it said we wouldn't be separated, or we shouldn't be separated after we'd worked so hard to stay together. The meaning of the last line finally hit me. You mean, I swallowed hard, that they're thinking about putting me and Soda in a boys' home or something? Steve was carefully combing back his hair in complicated swirls. Something like that. I sat down in a daze. We couldn't get hauled off now. Not after Derry and me had finally gotten through to each other. Now that the big rumble was coming up and we would settle the social greaser thing once and for all. Not now when Johnny needed us and Dally was still in the hospital and wouldn't be out for the rumble. No, I said out loud, and Two-Bit was scraping the egg off the clock, turned to stare at me. No what? No, they ain't gonna put us in a boys' home. Don't worry about it, Steve said, cocksure that he and Soda Pop could handle anything that came up. They don't do things like that to heroes. Where's Soda and Superman? That was as far as he got because Derry shaved and dressed, came in behind Steve and lifted him up off the floor, then dropped him. We all called Derry Superman, or Muscles, at one time or another. But one time Steve made the mistake of referring to him as all brawn and no brain, and Derry almost shattered Steve's jaw. Steve didn't call him that again. But Derry never forgave him. Derry's never really gotten over not going to college. That was the only time I had ever seen Soda mad at Steve. Although Soda attached no importance to education. School bored him. No action. Soda came running in. Where's that blue shirt I washed yesterday? He took a swig of chocolate milk out of the container. Hate to tell you, buddy, Steve said, still flat on the floor, but you have to wear the clothes to work. There's law or something. Oh, yeah? Soda said. Where were those jeans, too? I ironed. They're in my closet, Derry said. Hurry up, you're gonna be late. Soda ran back, muttering, I'm hurrying. Steve followed him, and in a second there was the general racket of pillow fight. I absent-mindedly watched Derry as he searched the icebox for the chocolate cake. Derry, I said suddenly, do you know about juvenile court? Without fuming to look at me, he said evenly, yeah, the cops told me last night. I knew then that he realized we might get separated. I didn't want to worry him anymore, but I said, I had one of those dreams last night that I can never remember. Derry spun around and faced me again, genuine fear on his face. What? I had a nightmare. The night of Mom and Dad's funeral, I had nightmares and wild dreams every once in a while when I was little, but nothing like this one. I woke up screaming bloody murder, and I can never remember what it was that scared me. It scared Soda Pop and Derry almost as bad as it scared me. For night after night, for weeks on end, I would dream this dream and wake up in a cold sweater, screaming. I could never remember exactly what happened in it. Soda began sleeping with me, and it stopped occurring so often. But it happened often enough for Derry to take me to a doctor. The doctor said I had too much imagination. He had a simple cure. Study harder, read more, draw more, and play football more. After a hard game of football and 4 or 5 hours of reading, I was too exhausted mentally and physically to dream anything, but Derry never got over it. And every once in a while he'd ask me if I had a dream anymore. Was it very bad? Two-Bit questioned. He knew the whole story, and having never dreamed about anything but blondes, he was interested. No, I lied. I had awakened in a cold sweat and shivering, but Soda was dead to the world. I just wiggled closer to him and stayed awake for a couple of hours, trembling under his arm. The dreams always scared the heck out of me. Derry started to say something, but before he began, Soda Pop and Steve came in. You know what? Soda Pop said, to no one in particular. When we stop the Sochies, good. Me and Stevie here are going to throw a big party and everyone's going to get stoned. Then we'll go chase the Sochies clear to Mexico. Where are you going to get the dough, little man? Derry had found the cake and was handing out pieces. I'll think of something, Soda Pop assured him between bites.